Hi, this is Ali Arango of ArangoDigitalProduction.com, and today I want to show you how to do a landscape and a quick house scene in Blender 2.69. So let's get started. Again, I also want to say thank you to all the people that leave comments on the channel that actually psych me up and keeping going as far as making these tutorials. I've also learned some things. I had debated if it was necessary to do the tedious task of saying all the keys, and I have since discovered that apparently people like that, so I will continue to try to do that. Okay, if this is your first time in Blender, I recommend you go to File, User Preferences, select Input, and then just click Select with Left rather than right click, which is Blender's default select with. This will just make Blender a little bit more simple, just more similar to something like Photoshop or GIMP. One other thing, while we're in here, to do this tutorial, you're going to make sure you go to Add-ons, and you're going to scroll down. You see this thing that says Landscape. Put a check mark right in here. Okay, for those new to Blender, the way Blender works is you have two basic modes that you operate in. You have object mode, which you can, if you look right here, you can see this is object mode. Object mode lets you move an entire object around. You also, if you select here and click edit mode, this is the mode where you actually tend to make things. You can actually pull and push individual points as far as Blender to maneuver the viewpoint. Remember, in Blender, you actually, if you hold your middle mouse button, click and roll, you'll see your different viewpoint. And then if you just select it with left select, like I just showed you, you'll just left click and you'll be able to grab. And then typically when you select right, you'll see that 3D cursor pop around. Wherever that 3D cursor goes is where something will come into the world as far as Blender. If you hit Control Z, you'll go back just like in a typical design program. So I hit Control Z, and sure enough, it takes me back to the cube. One thing that I didn't say in my other tutorials is when you make things in Blender, the Tab key is the key that will let you go into and out of, in between object and edit mode very quickly. When you are in Blender, you bring your objects in the object mode. So you would hit Shift A. When I click Shift A, this menu pops up here, right? If you brought in something like a cube, basically when you bring this object in, if you're going to move that cube, you want to hold Tab or push Tab and then take this cube and move this cube in edit mode. And just trust me, you're better off moving in edit mode than object mode generally. Also, you see, if you want to grab a cube or something like this and you want to move it around, see I have like that vertice selected. That's another thing. In Blender, you have vertices, edges, and faces. So if you want to move a point, this is a vertice right here. You want to move an edge, here's an edge here. You want to move a face, here's a face here. If you want to grab something in Blender, one thing that's extremely useful is if I click one vertice, I can hit Control L and it will grab that entire object and then allow me to move that object. But there's just some things I realized I hadn't said before. So for this, okay, the first thing you're going to want to do here is hit Shift C. And that just makes your 3D cursor go right back into the center of your scene. Now what you're going to do is hit Shift A, go to Mesh, and you're going to go to Landscape. All right, whenever you first bring something into Blender, a lot of times you'll have options before you click anything. A lot of times when you click, you'll lose these options. Right here, we just brought in a landscape, which is from that landscape plugin we activated around the beginning of this tutorial when we went to File, User Preferences, Landscape. That enabled this to be brought in. This is a regular part of Blender. You just have to activate it, when you first come into Blender. But when we first bring this landscape in, before you click anything out here, if you look to the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see this thing that says Landscape. And basically what this is these are different things that you can come in and play with later on. And I mean, you can change the height and the depth of this landscape and do all kinds of other cool stuff. But for what it's worth, we're going to leave it how it is now. But just so you know, all these options are here. I mean, you can do some cool stuff and, play around with this, have a good time with it. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go in, we're going to hit the This is a good thing actually just happened. Right now we're in object mode. I'm zooming into this little landscape. Sometimes in Blender, you'll have to deal with this when you're zooming into an object. Even though I'm rolling my mouse, Blender slows down to the point where it won't let me zoom in anymore. If you encounter this problem like I just did, all you have to do is hit period on your number keypad, and basically what it does is it will fix the problem for you. So anyway, what we're going to do is hit tab to go into edit mode, and we're going to zoom back a little bit, and you're just going to hit S to scale and make your landscape bigger. Like I said, it's pretty cool. Normally you would think you would have to do this yourself, but you have a nice little mountainous landscape mode right there. So what we're going to do is I actually had another tutorial where I had showed you how to make a house, and at the time I was having sound sync problems. So we're going to make another house and a couple of low poly trees and put it around, and something that I thought was pretty cool. So that's what we're going to do now. So what you're going to do is you are going to actually remember where this 3D cursor is where a new object will come in Blender. When I right click, now the new object will come where this 3D cursor is. So now I'm going to hit, and you're in object mode is where you want to bring in your new objects when you want them separate from the object you were on. We want this separate from this this little rocky, island looking thing here. So we're going to hit Shift A, and you're going to go to mesh, you're going to go to plane to bring in a plane. So there's our plane. And now you're going to go to tab to go actually into the plane. And when we move around, you can see it's below. We want it actually pretty much right on level with that island or mountainous region, landscape, I guess I should say. So we'll hit 1 on our number keypad, 5 to go in orthographic view, which just means that you are seeing like straight on, like no perspective. And this view is for doing things like this. We're going to take this up, and now we can see that there you go. It's right pretty much lined up with that. I'm just going to use this manipulator and pull it over, and this is going to be a house. So now we know as long as we pull just the green and the red right here on the manipulator, we'll be fine as far as like this actually being on the level we need it to. Alright, so what I'm going to do is hit 7 on the number keypad, and now I'm going to hit S to scale on the x-axis to bring this in. Then I'm going to hit S to scale on the y-axis to elongate a little bit. This is one of the most useful tools in Blender I'm about to do now. You're going to hit Control R. It's a loop cut tool. When I hit Control R, you'll see this purple line come up, right? That purple line comes up. If I roll my mouse wheel, you'll get multiple loop cuts. If I roll it the other way, you'll get one. For the purpose of this, we just need one, so I'm going to left click. And now after I left clicked it, this loop cut is movable, so I'm just going to pull it up here and then left click again to lock it in. Okay, now what you're going to do, typically when you want to grab something in Blender, depending on what you want to grab, if you want to make sure you grab a certain amount of vertices, I recommend you hit the Z key to make your mesh turn transparent, and all this allows you to do is to absolutely grab any of the vertices here, or if there was ones in the distance, which in this case there isn't since it's a plane, but it will make sure that you grab everything. So it's a good habit, I think, to turn things transparent if you want to grab multiple vertices. But anyway, I'm going to hit A for deselect. I'm going to hit B for box select. I'm going to grab these two vertices right here. Now I'm hitting E for extrude, and then X to bring out this extrusion out to there. Now I'm going to make sure, again, still I'm on my vertices here. Remember, you select by vertices, edges, and faces. I'm on my vertices. So now what I'm going to do is select here, hold shift, select here, and here. And basically what I'm about to do now is merge these vertices to this one right here. So to do that, I'm going to hit Alt M. That brings up this merge vertice menu, and it's going to merge at the last, which is that white dot right there. So, and that's what I want. So they just merge and form that angle right there, right? Okay, so now what I'm doing is taking my middle mouse button, turning just so I can manipulate the view. I'm going to hit A to deselect, and since one of the things, remember we made this as a separate object from here, because this is a separate object from that island, even though it kind of looks like they're together, but they are separate. When I hit A, I select all of this right here, which is what I want right now. I'm just going to zoom in to get a slightly better view. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit E to extrude on the Z axis, And if you get a little wobbly thing, like it's not perfectly, just hit Z again, and you can see that line telling you where you're gonna go, which is straight up and down. We're gonna take it to about here. This next part is kind of interesting. What you're gonna do is you're gonna hit E again on the Z axis, but instead of taking it up and locking it in, you're gonna pull it up. You can hit Z again, but it's still going up and down. We don't want it to be we don't want to left click. What we're gonna do is right click. Now it looks like I reversed it. I didn't do anything. What I did do something. What I did was I created new geometry right here. The reason why I created that new geometry is because I want to do this. I'm going to hit Z so you're not confused. Okay, we created new geometry. So basically what happened is we pulled a layer, we extruded and pulled up, but then we did collapse it on itself. So there is another flat extrusion plane right on top of the original one before we started extruding. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to hit the I key. So you want to take your, don't have your mouse on top like this. Have your mouse outside here a little bit. Just gives you some room to adjust before we do this. You're going to hit I. All right, this is insetting this plane. All right, so now what you're going to do is push in to about there. This is going to be forming the roof. Right, don't left click. Don't left click. You're just pushing in, not pushing anything right now. Now you're going to hit hold control down. And as you hold control down, now you're going to pull and you see what's going on. Very nice. And what this is doing now, we can sit there, let go of control, and left click. Okay, and what that did was it just gave us a very easy way to creating a roof on this this house. Now what we're going to do is you're going to go to your, make sure your vertice select still, and you're going to select here, hold shift, here, here, and here. And what we're going to do is scale on the x-axis just to bring this closer in, because we're forming a roof here, so we don't want it totally be pointy, but just pushing it in a little bit. And then here we can actually do the same thing. We're going to hold shift, and actually I'm just going to use a manipulator and just push this over just a little bit. You could scale or push it over. Just pulling with the manipulator just like there a little bit. All right, and that's a pretty decent quick way of forming a roof. Now what you're going to do is make sure you're on your face select. You're going to click here, hold shift. And I'm just holding shift and clicking around this house. And what I'm going to do now is, again, I'm going to do the same thing we did before. Make sure your mouse button's away so you got a little bit of space just to push. You're going to hit I for inset. Oh, actually, you're gonna hit I for the inset. Don't click anything. Just like before, I just messed up myself. Push I, and you see that line? I didn't click anything. Now I'm holding control, and now while holding control, I'm pushing in, and you see what's going on there? Now I'm going to left click to lock it in, and basically by doing that, so first we hit I for inset, then we held control, and remember we didn't click anything after hitting I. We held control, we pushed it, and what it did was it gave us this nice lip on the house. And if you ever tried making a house, like when I was new to Blender, long story short, I tried making a house that was rougher than you would think for such a fairly simple object. So this is a nice way. You got your roof, you got your bottom of your house, and you have your nice lip right there. And I had actually learned this technique from a guy named Alex Telford. He did an awesome thing on geometric displays, and his thing, I truly thought it was amazing, though it was kind of fast. But that's where I originally learned how to do this. Anyway, what we're going to do now is you're going to make sure you're still on your faces. You're going to select here. And you see when I selected there, it deselected there. So typically when you select something new without holding shift, it'll deselect the other parts of what you're holding. Now this won't always happen. If it doesn't always happen, then you hit A. If you want to be just sure, you hit A again. It'll select everything, and then A again. Now you know for sure you're not selected on something when you don't. But anyway, make sure you're in face select. You're going to select here. And what you're going to do, this is a cool principle. Remember this, because when I first learned, I was like, what? Why would you do this? I can either bring in a new plane, right, to make this door, which we're about to make for this house, or what I can do is what I'm about to do now. Now here's this plane that I'm selected on. All I'm going to do very simply is I'm hitting Shift D. Now what I did was I just created a new plane. So now I'm going to left click, right? Doesn't look like anything happened, but we created a new plane. So now when I pull out, yep, there you go. So now I have this this more geometry to work with. So similar to what we did before with the roof. And then now what we're going to do with this is we're just going to hit S to scale, on the Y axis. And you ever get your axes messed up? Like if I hit X, you see that? It's showing me by that line where I'm pulling. If I hit Z, it's showing me up and down. So Y is showing me that's where I want, because we're going to thin this up so it's, you know, door-like. All right, so now we're going to hit S to scale on the Z axis, bring it in just a little bit more. And I'm just rotating the view. And whenever you're doing 3D, you're going to constantly be typically going front to side, front to side, front to side. I'm going to hit E to extrude and see that there's a line coming out, but just even though it's saying extrude, like without hitting anything, it's showing me, I'm still going to hit X just to make sure that I'm totally going down the X axis. So here's the door, right? Now I have this door selected. So rather than me trying to hit, you know, shift, hold, all this other stuff, because I have this door selected, now I can hit Control L. And basically what that does is whenever you have one part of an object, like a solid object kind of by itself, I guess you would say, whenever you hit Control L, that will grab the entire object, and it is amazingly useful. Okay, so I just stopped for a second. Hey, Tony Michael, you just subscribed to me. Thank you. I appreciate it. I just saw that. Anyway, yeah, this Control L is very useful. So now that we have this door right here, let me actually make that a little bit thinner. So I hit thin it up just a little bit. All right. So now what we're gonna do, we'll make a door handle. So we're gonna hit Shift D, take this plane, right? And what we're gonna do is we know that by hitting Shift D, we made a duplicate of that plane. So we're just gonna hit S to scale, Z axis, bring it in. S to scale, Y axis, bring it in, zoom in a little bit closer, and I'm just going to scale it down. And I'm going to hit, a lot of times when you see me changing the view, it's just so I can get the best angle. I'm going to hit E to scale on the X axis, and there's the doorknob. Now see, I have this part right here, all right? So how am I going to grab this when it's pretty much stuck on the door where I want it? I'm going to hit Control L, boom, grabs the whole thing. Now just take my manipulator and move it over here. You know, it's not a perfect door handle. This thing was originally set up to be fairly low poly and it'll render fast and all that. But anyway, you're gonna hit R to rotate, and we'll just turn it. Whoops, crap! See that? I hit R to rotate, and basically what just happened was, because I hit R and I didn't say rotate on a certain plane, basically what happened was it started turning kind of like whatever way it wanted to turn. So I hit R to scale, and I hit I wanted to scale to rotate around the X axis, so that way it's, you know, totally locked in. Now I'm going to do is hit Shift, grab this door. This was already fully selected, and I'm going to hit Control L and just grab this and push this back. And when I push this back so it lines up on the house, I'm actually going to hit this right here. Now what this is a snapping tool, and what that means is when I click here, it's going to snap to the face of this house. So to make sure the door doesn't go through the house, I activate the snap. When I push back, it should snap right to the house. Alright, so I'm just gonna grab and push it, and you should see it snap. Sometimes it'll give you a problem. See that? Now when I pushed it, boom, snap right to there, and that is very useful. Now if you're trying to snap something and it gives you a problem, just click here, and because you'll see, like if I try to move the door from side to side, see it, it's snapping kind of weird. So just hit this magnet again. Now you can move freely. This next part I thought was pretty cool. What we're going to do is we're going to make a window now. So what we're going to do is we'll make sure we're on face select. We'll grab here, we'll hit Shift D. We made the new geometry. We'll pull this, and now we'll hit, and this is a typical thing you'll do in Blender a lot too. I'm going to hit RX90. Whoops. It's not right. What do I want? There we go. 90 or Y90 for this thing, and by hitting that, basically what I did, I rotated it at 90 degrees. All right, so this is going to be our window here. I'm just moving my camera so I can see from top down. I'm going to hit S to scale on the X axis, make it a little bit more square. If you guys see how my view, when I roll in, it kind of like snaps. You can also hold Control and then hold your middle mouse and push in and push out, and you'll get a little bit smoother zoom in sometimes. So what we're going to do with this is you're going to hit I. It's very useful for making houses. As you can see, you're going to hit I, and then after hitting I, you're just going to push in And you can see basically you can imagine what we're doing, creating a window frame here. And it's actually pretty cool because before I knew this, before I knew how to do this, it was, you know, a window is actually a lot more complicated than you would think. Now I just hit E to extrude on the Z axis. So there's the window frame. So now we're going to make the inside of the window. So we're going to make sure we're still in our face select. Select inside. Now you're going to hit W. And this is your special menus, the last specials menu that pops up. You're then going to hit subdivide. And you can see right there is our cut in our window, but we want to have, you know, it's a 3D window. So now what we're going to do is hit Control B. And after hitting Control B, you don't want to click or anything. You see that line? Most of the time when you see that line, you don't want to click. So I'm now going to just push in. Whoops. I'm actually going to pull out. And just not too much. And you see I'm just getting that little bit of 3D depth right there. Now I'm going to left click to lock in. Now I'm going to hit E to extrude on the Z axis. See how it's wobbly like that? If you see that, just hit Z again, it'll lock it in. So doesn't have to be too much, just a little bit of 3D-ness to the window, and there's our window. And one of the things I want you guys to think about as you're doing 3D is once you make one thing, once you go through the work of one thing, you can easily duplicate and replicate this thing like crazy all over the place. So basically we have this window, we have, you know, we're selected right here, right? So what we're going to do is hit Control L and it grabs the whole thing. So now what we're going to do is hit R on the Y axis. So we hit R to rotate on the Y axis without clicking anything. See that dotted line? So now we hit 9, 0 and it puts the window how you want it, and then we left click to lock it in. Okay, now we're going to put this on the house. So what we're going to do to make sure it sticks to the house and doesn't go through it, when you push it back, we're going to activate this magnet, which is our snap to. So we're snapping to the face of the house, turning just so we can see. We're going to push this straight back. You can see it, there it goes, trying to snap. So is it snapped? Sometimes, there it goes. Sometimes it can be weird. And since it's not weird, I got it on there. I'm just going to turn this off now, or click it so it disables. I'm going to hit S to scale to make this window a little bit smaller. And now that I've got to work on that window, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit Shift D, duplicate, left click to lock in. I'm just going to drag and pull another window over, line it up, especially you can see my eyes. I'm going to hit Shift D again, left clicked. I'm going to pull straight out for this other window. And now I'm going to turn this snap on again. So I'm just going to move this over. See, sometimes it can be weird. So. And just remember, if you're new to 3D, you're going to constantly be looking front to back, front to back. And guess what? If you don't do that, good luck trying to, what the heck? Is it on? Sometimes it's weird. It didn't snap. I don't know. Somebody, if you know why I'm on face, why sometimes it snaps and sometimes it doesn't, I don't know. Now it's letting me push it through. Anyway, most of the time it works. So it's on there, and what I'm going to do now is hit Shift D again. Now I'm just going to pause to the new geometry. I hit Shift D, it copies it even though you don't see it moving. Then I'm just pulling it out. Now what I'm going to do is hit R. What is this? Z axis. R for rotate on the Z axis, 9, 0 just to flip it. Let's see if the snap works. Actually, let me move it. Maybe that's why. Let me move it here, over. I'm going to activate the magnet. Put it straight back. There it goes. So it's weird. I don't know. It worked perfectly that time. I don't need it because it's already where I want it to now. So I'm going to deactivate the magnet, which is just means snap. I'm going to hit Shift D to duplicate, left click, because I want to move it after it's already made and created. So I'm just going to push this over. And you can imagine if you really need to make a lot of windows, once you make one, I mean you can just constantly duplicate them over and over again. Okay, so now we have our basic house. We could put windows on the back, but for this little landscape thing we're doing, we don't need that. So now what we're going to do is, because this house is its own separate object from that landscape, we're going to hit A to grab the entire house. And we're just going to kind of move this into position here. Something that looks, I kind of want it like in a little bit. Like it's like in the ground, kind of like, you know what I'll do? pull this out. Let's give it a, it's kind of like a base that can actually sink into the ground. Another select in Blender, I'm going to hit A to deselect everything. Another select in Blender is C. So I'm hitting C, and what C does, it lets you paint select. So when I just grab that, I hit C, and because this whole thing is just flat on the ground, it grabbed the whole thing. But you can actually paint with this, with C, with this. So anyway, with that whole thing selected there, now I'm going to hit E to extrude on Z axis. See how it's wobbly, I hit Z again, it locks in. So now we have like a little stand for the house to go onto, and I'm going to hit Control L, grab everything but the windows. That could be useful later on for texturing, but anyway, because this is its own separate object from here, I'm hitting A to deselect and A to select everything. So now we'll just move this back again. Kind of, now we had some space so it can kind of like sink into the ground there. You know, this is just I figured this would be cool. Like my favorite thing to make up in Blender is I like to create characters. I like to you know, make the characters up, model them, then rig them, and then animate them. And I kind of think of everything as animation based. But you know, when you make the characters and you rig them, you want the characters to have a place to go. So I mean, when I look at this little thing right here, I think like it could be like a little asteroid thing, like some kind of science fiction thing, or something on the side of some, you know, I don't know, little thing. You know, I just think about different stories that could happen here. But anyway, let me show you how to make these trees. Okay, so as far as making the trees, I want them to be a separate object from the landscape and from the house. So you see we're in edit mode right here. So what I'm going to do is hit tab to go into object mode. So now we're in object mode. Remember, wherever a new object comes in is where your 3D cursor is at. So I'm going to select here. Now when this 3D cursor, I've right clicked to get that 3D cursor there, by the way. You see how I brought it there? The only way to really know where this thing's actually at in 3D space is to actually move I'm holding the middle mouse and I'm just twisting around, and that's the only way to really know where it's at, you know. So the tree is going to be from here. So basically what I'm going to do, it's actually going to be a combination of two objects. So I'm going to hit Shift A, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just bring in Shift A, plane, hit tab, because you're better off bringing your objects in object mode, and as soon as you're going to change them, go into edit mode. Even though you can scale things in object mode, I just recommend you do them in the edit mode. So I just brought in the plane is what I did, then I hit S to scale and I scaled it down. Now what I'm going to do is hit E to extrude on the Z axis, and I'm going to hit Z again to lock in so it goes straight up, and I'm just pushing up. Okay, I'm just going to roll my mouse wheel back so I can see. So that's a pretty thick tree, too thick. So what I'm going to do is hit Control L, just grabs everything, and hit S to scale. And just now see that how the whole thing is getting smaller. Like I want the height of it really, right? See how thick it is? This is pretty cool right here. If I hit Alt S instead of scale, normally you would hit scale. I'm hitting Alt S and watch what happens. Here's Alt S. So now when I scale, you see that? So I'm retaining the height, and I'm getting what I want, which I wanted thinner, a thinner, you know, trunk for this for the tree. So pretty cool. Remember that. That's that can be pretty useful. So the tree is going to be here. I actually don't want it that tall, so I'm still in my face mode. I'm going to grab the face there. I'm just going to push down. When I first was learning 3D, I was like, you know, was everything extruding? Now, sometimes everything 3D, always remember this, 3D modeling is basically pushing and pulling vertices is what it is. You extrude, but if I had to say everything, the main of it is just pushing and pulling vertices, and in that sense, it lowers down. We just push that face down. Anyway, I'm going to hit Control R for loop cut. As long as my mouse is over, I see the loop cut. If my mouse isn't over the object I did the loop cut on, you don't see the purple. I put it over, there's the purple. All right, so I'm going to left click to lock in. I left click one time. Because I left clicked one time, I can move this loop cut up. And I'm just doing this because I want to bend this branch, this trunk. So I'm left clicking, lock in. Then I'm going to take my manipulator and just push to the side. This next part I think is really cool. Okay, and just so you guys understand, this model is basically meant to be low poly art style. Low poly is generally an art style that is you know, just very quick to render. I mean, some of the things, matter of fact, let me show you this real quick. It's my Pinterest page. Here's a low poly, I guess that's a lighthouse there. Here's like a low poly stream kind of thing. So kind of like this. And low poly, I mean, I love the art style. There's some more low poly stuff off of my 3D art Pinterest. I mean, I think it looks very cool. But anyway, just so you understand, that's pretty much what we're going for when I say trees. I just don't want you confused thinking it's going to be the super detailed thing. But anyway, it's pretty cool way of doing this. Like I said, I learned this from Alex Telford. Anyway, what we're going to do is hit a tab to go back into object mode. Just so you know, that wasn't my artwork. That was my Pinterest page, but it was somebody else's art. I was trying to find the artist's name, but sometimes it's difficult on Pinterest. But anyway, what we're going to do with this is we're going to basically make the branches. And the way we're going to go about that is we're going to, okay, we have our 3D cursor, so we want it to come in right over this this tree. So you can see when we put our 3D cursor how it moves around. So you gotta, the way you position it is you go front, you know, around, then eventually, typically it's like front and side and then top, and you'll get it. Doesn't have to be exact. So what we're gonna do is you're gonna hit Shift A and you're gonna go to Meta Ball. This is an interesting little thing here. You're gonna click ball, and then there's the metal ball right there. You're then going to hit tab. Don't try to, you're going to hit tab, go into edit mode. And even though it's bigger than house and all, that's fine for right now. Now what we're going to do is hit Shift D. And by Shift D, it's making a meta ball, and then it's pulling part of the other meta balls. We're going to pull here, hit Shift D, left click to lock it in, Shift D again, you know, for that meta ball. Okay, so it's, you know, big, it's fine, even though it looks weird because it's bigger than all the other stuff. Now what we want to do is you're going to hit tab to go back into object mode. Now you're going to hit Alt C, and what this does, this menu comes up convert to, so that's a meta ball. We want to convert this to a mesh, so what we're going to do is select mesh from curve metadata. So now this is an actual mesh, which is what we want. Now we're going to hit tab, and now we're inside of the you know, the edit mode for this meta ball. And now that it's like that, now we can sit there and hit S in edit mode and, you know, shrink it down and maneuver it. So I guess it really didn't matter us setting the 3D cursor up, so it doesn't, we don't want it to stay like this. What we're going to do is we're actually going to use dynamic typology. So this is a cool thing that you can learn here for some other things. And what we're going to do is we're going to go into sculpting mode. So we're going to select right here next to edit mode, and you're going to click sculpt. All right, one of the things that can help you out so it doesn't confuse you with this other things, actually go back into edit mode. One of the things with Blender that is very cool among its many cool things that's kind of similar to, that's similar, I guess, to other 3D programs, is there's a local mode, which means you only see the object. So if this house and stuff is distracting, if you're working in something else where it's distracting, go to your number keypad, and right next to the number lock there's a backspace key. So you hit that, now you're in local mode, and that basically means that all we see is we can just focus right on this. Everything else is still there. Once I hit that backspace again, I come right back out. I'm going to go back in. I hit it. Now, if you ever sit there and hit it by accident, if you look right here, you can see, or you forget you're in there somehow, you can see it says local you know, mode right there. So anyway, we're going to go into sculpt mode, right? This is cool right here. This is actually, I think, very cool. Okay, what we're going to do to get this to be like a low poly leaf set thing like we want is the first thing we want to go is, I learned this from Alex Telford. One thing, I don't think, he was very fast. The guy's like a genius, but he did it very fast. One of the things you have to do is turn your strength all the way down to 0, all right? Now what you're going to do is you're going to go to typology, and you're going to click enable dynamic, right? This is awesome. Excuse me, you're going to hit collapse short end, and to make this work right, what you want to do is take F, hit F, and then pull. That makes your cursor, what you're controlling with, bigger. You also want to make sure you're on draw still, so you have no strength, you know, 0 strength. You click the crap, where did I say that? Dynamic, you know, and you have collapse short edges on. So now what you want to do is roll out your mouse wheel, hit Z, so you go transparent. And the reason why you're rolling out, I'm assuming, is that the way it works is that you're making your mouse wheel even bigger. So now when I click, basically what's happening is it doing it? There it goes. See that? Basically what it's doing is it is taking away geometry. It is making it super low poly. So basically it was a lot more detailed. Now it gives us kind of like this low poly look that you typically will see for trees right here. So just a cool thing, pretty cool thing. Let me not linger on that. So anyway, we're going to sit here and we're going to come out of here. We're going to go to edit mode, right? Then what we're going to do, so we can see with everything else, is we're going to go out of, we're still in local mode. We're going to hit backspace to come back out into the world. Now we kind of have our like weird looking tree thing right there. And actually, you know what? Go back into scope mode, sorry. Or we'll shape this a little teeny bit. So click here, here's the draw mode, go into grab mode. If you've never seen a scope mode in Blender, it's awesome. It's just awesome. But anyway, basically, so we're in here, so we won't affect the house or anything. And this grab mode allows us to play like a kid playing with silly putty. You can grab and pull, and I mean, I'll tell you what, it's cool for this tree. It's very useful. It's even more useful for when you're doing faces and stuff. I mean, it's just that scope mode in Blender is awesome. How it's just connected. And anyway, so there's our, you know, our tree right there. We can come back into edit mode, and now what we're going to do is hit tab to go into object mode. I'm actually going to click on a separate object, which is just tree trunk right here. See, I'm in object mode still. I'm going to hit tab to go into edit mode there, and what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to hit select face, take this plane right here, hit shift D, right, pull this forward just a little bit. Then I'm going to actually hit E to extrude on the x-axis, and I'm just pulling out another branch, basically, is what I'm doing here. So now what I'm going to do, see, I have that, just like remember before we grabbed the single part. So you want to grab the whole part, you're going to hit Control L. Now we have the whole part there, so now I'm just, you know, maneuvering it, and this is just going to be a second branch, so moving it into place. You gotta, to make it right, you gotta, you know, obviously look around left to right. Now I'm just gonna hit R to rotate. No rotational axis. You know, I'm just looking at it because it's a tree branch, so it can be off a little bit. And it's just literally sticking into the other polygon. I'll rotate it up a little teeny bit so it's going more into the tree. So I just want another branch. It looks kind of weird. So when, you know, I'll rotate it more. This tutorial I know is already getting long. And I'm actually going to hit Alt S, that trick I showed you before, to make it thinner. Now left click the lock, and then now I'm just hitting right. I'll leave it like this. Obviously, the more time you put into something, the better it is. I wanted to have two branches like I was told. Anyway, what we're going to do now is we're actually going to join these two separate objects together to make them easier to deal with. So the tree trunk and the, you know, low polygon branches are two separate objects. So what we're going to do is hit tab to go into object mode, and then while in object mode with the tree branches selected, we're going to hold shift, collect the hold shift and select the branches. And all this stuff, by the way, you have your this panel right here shows you all the objects that you have. So the meta ball is what we made the branches from. You can name all these things because the tutorial is already long. I'm not going to get into it. But if you wanted to not get too into it, if you wanted to name this, right? Like suppose it's this meta ball right here, right? If you wanted to name it, you would hit the N key. You see where it says item here? So I might just sit here and put a, you know, I'll put a low poly branches, you know, and then I could take the tree trunk and we made it from a plane, so that's why it says plane, you know, 001. I come here to item, and then I could put a you know, tree trunk. And it's just like, you know, it's useful when you're, then left click the lock, and then it's useful when you're you know, you have a lot of different items. So anyway, what we're going to do is while being selected on the tree trunk, we're going to hold shift and then select these branches. And now what we're going to do is hit Control J. And what Control J does is it makes two solid objects one object. The reason why we wanted to do that is because we wanted to make this, I wanted to make it easy to duplicate this tree. So now with that duplicated, I'm going to hit Tab to go in here. I'm then going to hit, because they're both inside. So when I'm in edit mode now, I have the option to select the branches and the trunks. So I'm going to hit A to select everything. I'm going to hit Shift D just like we did to the windows, and I'm doing the basic same function here. I'm going to hit R to rotate on the Z-axis to just change it a little bit, and you know, that's the cool thing with 3D. Once you Shift D, once you make one, you know, you can just populate. I mean, you can just, you know, or rotate on the Z-axis and just, you know, get a bunch of different things going. Hit Shift D again for these trees, and we're not going to go. You could, I mean, this is basically it's meant to be low poly. It's meant to be low poly, so you might look at it and say, the thing doesn't look all that great. I mean, it doesn't look all that cool. Well, one of the things, if you're new to Blender, that you might not know, when I learned this, I was like, you know, what are they talking about, right? Okay, basically what we have right here, we are in the Blender internal engine, okay? And basically what that means is we have lighting that, you know, it's okay lighting, but it's not spectacular lighting. Now, when I came into Blender a little bit after, I guess I was in it for a while, but I was still, you know, learning the basics. A thing called cycles came in, and you might hear, if you're new to Blender, you might hear cycles. What is cycles? I was like, you know, what the heck is this cycles? They're going all crazy about. What is it? Well, here's what cycles is. Cycles is a way of lighting. Now, remember, we see everything by light, right? We see everything by light as human beings. That's how we see. So there's one type of lighting that looks kind of fake, which is Blender's. There's a, you know, time and place for everything. Blender's internal render, which is what this is, Blender renders. What it means is when you see this as an image, this will put out the Blender's regular lighting system, right? What cycles is when I click here, all right, and I click, see it says cycles render, I click here. Now I am in cycles, the cycles rendering, and this has to do with the way light is placed, and it is spectacular. Now let me show you right now what this is. So here's the Blender render, right? All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control Alt O, and what this does is this. I guess my camera was too close. It tries to make me put the camera where I was looking. I'm going to, you know, left. Let me hit Tab. Crap, sorry. Let me hit Tab to go into object mode. That allows me to grab the camera. I have a manipulator, and I'm going to pull back my camera, and then when I hit the circle key on the number keypad, it goes into camera view, right? Here's another cool tip for you. If you hit a lock camera to view, when I click this lock camera to view, now I can hold my middle mouse button, and it allows me to move this camera. Where normally the view would just change, now it's actually let me position where the camera's at. So the only thing is if you have it on there and you try to zoom in, you'll see that, you know, to mess up your view. So get your basic view, then click unselect lock camera to view. Now you can roll in, right? So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to render this out, and you'll see it in the regular render. Then I'll show you the magic and the amazingness of cycles. That's my words, but I think they're adequate. Okay, and to render this out, to see what it looks like actually rendered out, this is the Blender renderer button right here. You have this display image editor. What that means is if I click render here, it'll fill this display up. I wouldn't recommend that because a lot of times when you click the render and it renders this image out, which is what the camera sees, if you go to close it, sometimes you hit this by accident. So just switch this to new window, and now I'm just going to hit render image. You see that? There's the Blender's regular internal. All right, I'm going to close this, and that is what's going on is this lighting is controlling that. Now I can take this light and I can move it, make it a little bit better. Now I'll push it down, you know, push it here, and I'm going to go back, and you can see there's a light. So let me render again. You know, still see, right? You know, there it goes. This is super black. Watch this. Now I'm going to show you guys what cycles does. Same viewpoint, everything else, right? Well, not exactly the same. So I'm going to click here, go into cycles render, which is how you get to it. So I select cycles. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, we're in object mode, so I'm going to right click. Here's my 3D cursor, which means that the new object I create is going to come right to here. I'm going to hit Shift A, Mesh, Plane, right? There's a plane right there. I'm going to come out so I can see it. And I'm going to hit S to scale. And I know I said don't, hit Tab. You're better off gets to be in the habit of scaling inside of edit mode. So we're in edit mode. I'm going to hit scale, right? Make this nice and big. Now in cycles mode, what cycles does is cycles it emits light from planes. it's better for me just to show it to you, right? Also, when you go into cycles mode, because cycles tends to use a decent amount of power, typically my computer runs the Blender renderer will render off of your CPU, as you can see right here. With cycles, if you have an NVIDIA card in your computer, you can click the CPU and change it to GPU, and it'll render a lot faster. So here we have this plane here. To get this plane to emit light to make cycles work right, or make it look better, what you're going to do is select the material, new, all right? See this diffuse? You're going to click here, and then you're going to click emission. Where's emission at? Oh, there we go, emission. So now what we're gonna do is, let's see what, here's our view, same viewpoint as before, right? So now let's see what cycles does with it. So let it render. Now there is a cycles regular sampling. You might sit there and say, it doesn't look that better. Cycles will render according to the sampling thing, which I forgot about for a second. So let me shut this, close this. Hopefully I'm not blowing you guys' minds for who are new to Blender, but this is important for you to know about, because I want you to make impressive work, and this should help. Cycles is just amazing. See this right here, we have light paths, right? Typically cycles can take a long time to render. I'm going to show you this. Take your balances, turn this down to max 4, turn this down to 0. Then when the thing that determines how cycles looks is these samples. Right now it's on the render. This render means that when I render something out in cycles, it's going to render 10 samples, which is very low. Or the preview is when it's in here. And the way you can preview something in cycles, which is another benefit of it, and I'll just do that for you to see. You click right here. Right now we're on solid. I'm going to click rendered. And there, right there is 10, right? So now I'm going to click this preview. I'll change it to 100. And basically what you'll see is up here, my computer keeps sampling until it hits to 100. Depending on how much you let your samples go, depends on how good it cycles tends to look. So I'll take it, and I will actually turn it to 300. And the reason why my computer is going so fast in cycles is because I have a Samsung Chronos. I changed that lighting, and we got an NVIDIA card in here. But basically, this can give you a little bit of an idea of what cycles can do. And let me adjust my viewpoint a little bit, give you a little bit of a different angle. Control. Oops, crap. I took my camera below. If that happens to you, what you can do is, if you're doing this, okay, another way, somehow this has turned into a cycles tutorial now, but anyway, what you can do if you want to see your render here and control your camera view, or your best, one thing in cycles, you'll notice that when you're in cycles, you will not, there's certain things you won't see in cycles. Okay, your best way to control a scene, in my opinion, is, I'm going to hit N to take this away, this menu away. I'm going to grab right here. This allows you to split your view inside of Blender. Yeah. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit whoops, N. I'm going to hit T to take that away. So here we have the render, the cycles view of it, and here we have the solid view of what's going on here. And basically, if you can see, like, here's a different light right here. We actually, I'm going to solid. I'm going to be able to grab this light. I have to go to tab mode or object mode. So now I can grab it, and I'm actually going to just delete that light. So basically, lights and the ability to grab different things like that, your manipulator won't show up in cycles mode. So you're better off controlling, splitting your viewpoint, controlling what you see in cycles with a split screen with solid here. And you'll see that in cycles, as I move this light, you can see the light is actually reflected there. And cycles is cool because, one, how it makes things look. Two, you can see things in real time. So what I'm doing now is putting up the 3D cursor here. I'm going to hit Shift A, bring in another plane, and I'm going to hit RX or RY to rotate this plane up, right? So this doesn't have it. I'm going to hit S to scale on the X-axis or Y-axis, and I am in object mode. But what now we're going to do is go to Material, New, and then go to Diffuse, and to make a plane of light, which is where you want to light cycles, you hit Emission, and then you can actually see some of what's going on there. You can see the light affecting this here. And I'm actually, let me turn my samples up a little bit more so you can see it go all the way. I'll turn it up to 500. Typically in cycles, again, I design things so that they can be animatable. Oh, in cycles, you see how you can see my computer racing to get up to that 500 setting that I set for it. But typically I like things to be animatable, which is one of the reasons why I like the the low poly, because it'll animate and it'll render very quickly. It's almost at 500 now, but yeah, I know I ramble a little bit more probably than usual in this tutorial, but hopefully you got some good things about this. You learned a little bit about dynamic typology, learned how to make a low poly tree, learned how to make a fairly low poly house, and now you know a little bit about the cycles engine. So thank you guys for always supporting my channel. Thank you for viewing this tutorial. Daniel, when you sat there, it's funny, you sent me a message and you said that you were honored that I made the rigging tutorial for you. Let me tell you something, man. I feel honored that you would feel honored that I would make a tutorial for you. I'm like, who the heck am I? But thank you guys for supporting the channel. If you like this video and you want to see more, please subscribe, and thank you for viewing.